Welcome back to another episode here. Today, I have the opportunity to interview not only one, but two amazing executives here at NVIDIA. I have Joe Dallaire and Stuart Pitts, who are both senior product managers for accelerated computing here with the data center side. And obviously, with everything we've heard at GTC, this is going to be a very, very amazing interview. So first, thanks, Joe. Thanks, Stuart, for taking the opportunity to be with me today.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Jose. It's great to see you.
So I'm just going to get to it. I have a lot of questions, and I know we're limited in time. The first thing is the Vera Rubin LPX, which was announced. And Jensen, during the keynote, he kind of broke down a little bit of the market of different tiers of AI, kind of like the freemium side, all the way up to like the ultra tier, ultra premium. And he kind of broke down the LPX plus the Vera Rubin. He gave it right now, at least for this generation, at about a 25% market. Not just that, but the complete system. As AI gets better and cheaper over time with innovations from you, with innovations happening in the software side, do we see that transitioning more to like from 25% maybe this generation to even higher and higher percentage over the upcoming generations and the upcoming innovations in the AI market?
Well, here's what I can say, and thanks again, Jose, for having us. It is clear. You speak to any developer building an agentic system today, there is clear product market fit for higher value tokens, which are smarter and faster. And this is how I think about it: is if you're building an agentic system, you can't just have tokens that are fast and dumb, right? They have to be smarter, faster, more capable, right? Because what you put into that agentic system is the quality you're going to get out. So that's what Jensen talked about this week, is we really believe there is this new category, this new subcategory of premium tokens that deliver more intelligence and a higher level of performance.
Thank you for that, Stuart. And quick question, with these types of premium side of AI, what are some of like the major workloads that we're seeing that fit into that criteria?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. If we had this conversation maybe 30, 60 days ago before the launch of OpenClaw, I think my answer would be a little different. Voice experiences, anything where speed is the product. But again, I think agentic systems, right, consume up to 15 times more tokens on average than a typical sort of purpose-built singular, AI task bot, if you will. And so with that increase in token volume, there's also a need for more intelligence. And so what we announced with NVIDIA Grok 3 LPX, the rack scale accelerator for Vera Rubin, is up to a 35x increase in token throughput. But this isn't just more tokens, it's that increase in volume in tokens on a really large trillion parameter model at up to 400K input context. So this means that you get tokens that are smarter and faster, and we really think that that's the fuel that agentic systems need.
Yeah, and Stuart, I appreciate you're really breaking down that we have to not just focus on faster; it's faster and smarter. It's
That's
not
right.
either or, and I think that's crucial for the future here that we're moving into. My next question is, we're also seeing kind of, and NVIDIA released so many new products, so many new solutions. Is the CPU standalone with Vera. CPU standalone rack. And one of the main workloads that I hear right now is AI agentic, kind of because the way I understand it, and hopefully you guys can correct me, is most of the tools that AI agents try to work on or work on are still CPU based. Is that the main driving force here for this standalone CPU rack system? Or what are some of the other workloads that might not be discussed that the CPU can kind of be appreciated more in the market?
Yeah, so I think you're right on. With agentic systems, there's lots of tool calling. So those tools, whether it's Excel, some type of compiler, that all has to be executed on a CPU. And with this fast interaction in these large agent systems, there's going to be a lot of those tool calls that are happening at a fast rate. You need a lot of CPUs. So that's why we have a rack dedicated with 256 Vera CPUs just to service that. But one of the other workloads is reinforcement learning. And we call that a sandboxing, where maybe you have a model that's trying to learn how to code, that's going to generate that code. It has to go over, compile, and test that code on a CPU and give back the results and see if that was actually what was appropriate and solve the problem for that task.
Now, another question here with all these products. We saw the Vera Rubin 72. We saw the Vera CPU stack. We saw the Vera LPX. We even saw the kind of Bluefield XTX. If maybe I could get a quick hit of each, who's buying what and for what type of workloads? Because is it impossible to think that one major cloud server provider would want to buy all of them? or is it targeted to certain types of users and markets?
So I would say it's really about the agentic workload for all of those different racks, right? We have the CPU for the tool calling. You need the STX rack, which is for storage. And we created this new tier of storage, AI native, we call it, because of all the agentic workflows. There is this need for fast access to KB cache. And if you're going to use network attack storage, which is more expensive, slower, that doesn't really work out very well. And there's not enough storage within the GPU rack itself. So this is a new tier, and that's what we have the STX rack for. So a lot of agentic systems are going to be utilizing that storage with that rack system. And so, we already talked about the Vera CPU rack as well. So I think agentic systems are driving the need for a lot of these new racks.
And for both, you guys, I keep hearing that if you would have asked me before OpenClaw, my answer would have been different. NVIDIA and has talked about agentic AI for a while now, right? But I think it's different talking about it, but then experiencing that moment with OpenClaw and kind of like the world just going crazy about it. How has things changed at NVIDIA when OpenClaw kind of saw this amazing? Is it see, we got it? Do we accelerate even faster? How have things changed since the release of OpenClaw?
So I would say that the demand has gone off the charts now for the compute to service OpenClaw type of applications and usage. So, even Jensen talked about that our own engineers are using OpenClaw to do coding and do projects. So even within our own company, we're seeing this demand for more compute, faster tokens. So it's just an example of how the whole market is going to have to adjust and get more compute.
I would add to that too and say even beyond NVIDIA, whether you speak to a developer inside of NVIDIA, outside of NVIDIA, there are these core problems that have existed in inference historically, architecturally for a long time, hold true, and the pressure, sort of surmounts even more on those problems. So what are those? Economics, cost per token, right? It's never been more critical. And as I mentioned a moment ago, we believe that multi-agent systems consume up to 15 times more tokens than traditional purpose-built chatbots or task-based agents. That's a massive increase in sort of the volume of compute that's needed. So economics are really important. Performance is critical. Why? Because you can't just have an agent that's smart and slow, right? For agentic systems to have the kind of macro impact on the economy and on the impact on people that we want, then they need to be smart and fast, as we talked about a moment ago. And then lastly, you need a lot of them, right? So this combination of volume, intelligence, and interactivity, we've never seen more demand than what we're hearing today from developers.
The next question I have here is, when looking at the roadmap, one of the big things that I saw that Jensen shared was for the LPX, we had the LP30, LP35, LP40, and LP30 for the Vera Rubin, LP35 for the Vera Rubin Ultra, and the LP40 for Feynman and beyond. Each of them had a different type of connectivity in them. If maybe I could get just a quick one-on-one of how does those connectivity change the discussions or kind of the performance of what we're going to see with the LPUs later on.
Yeah. Well, I'll share briefly about LPX. I think Joe can also tell you more about across the portfolio how this is working out. But look, the way I think about it relative to NVIDIA Grok 3 LPX is it's been less than 90 days since we signed. I came from Grok, by the way. So it's been less than 90 days since we signed the agreement between Grok and NVIDIA. Obviously, this week we've made this big announcement. Jensen said we'll deliver this product later this year.
Which is insane alone. That timeline is
building
crazy.
Really fast, right? And so what you're seeing in the first iteration, NVIDIA Grok 3 LPX and LPU, also known as the LP30, is we've taken the best of the co-design we've been able to do in 90 days, and we've committed to that architecture, and we're going to go deliver it out this calendar year. So this is the first instantiation of the best of NVIDIA Grok coming together up and down the stack. But when you look ahead, step by step, right, LP35, sort of the LPX Ultra product, represents sort of the next iteration. And, we'll iterate even beyond what we've announced, this week. We're going to iterate up and down the software and hardware stack to deliver more co-design. And then what you saw in LP40, the fourth generation, NVIDIA Grok product is the introduction of NVLink. So Jensen announced that this week as well. But again, TLDR, like what you're seeing is up and down the stack. We're just going to keep pushing the boundaries further of how we build on Grok's original IP as NVIDIA goes and develops its own IP with these future iterations. Joe, anything you would add?
Yeah, I would just say, it's all about the extreme co-design story. So all the things we did for Blackwell, NVL72, NVFP4, the NVLink, speed increase. So we want to make sure that the LPU portfolio benefits from all those extreme co-design features and capabilities that are part of our innovation and the blood of NVIDIA.
And Stuart, you mentioned in 90 days you guys were able to do all this. Do you think if this was 3 years ago, 4 years ago, without AI, would that 90 days be possible? Just curious to see how crucial was AI to kind of like moving that speed. Obviously, amazing engineering team, most likely from both Grok and NVIDIA, but wondering how much was also the help from AI to help kind of with this push to be able to do it in such a quick time.
Well, something that Grok, the engineers from Grok who existed before NVIDIA and those who have come to NVIDIA and all the NVIDIA engineers we've met since working together, commonality between these two teams is not only extraordinary talent density, but also an enormous use of AI, right? This is something that we were doing at Grok, something the team continues to do at NVIDIA. But I think beyond the use of AI, Joe mentioned truly the level of extreme co-design is what you're seeing come to life in this product. We're using a standard MGX rack architecture, similar tray design, fully liquid-cooled design, where all of the off-the-shelf componentry from MGX is coming to life through the LPX rack scale system. And that's part of what is allowing us to deliver that time to value.
That's great to hear, because I know NVIDIA has been working a lot on different standards, and it's like, now you see why. So it's like when you have a great team come in, it's like, we've already created this standard. We don't have to start from ground up. It's like,
let's go.
That is awesome
Absolutely.
to hear. Appreciate it. And hopefully the final question I have here is, again, with the roadmap. With Vera Rubin on the side, I saw kind of the Oberon rack and the Kyber rack and different numbers. So Oberon 72, 576, ETL 256, and then on the Kyber I saw 144. Can you help me understand what these mean? I know Oberon 72 is the NVL 72 system, and we see it. I'll probably have a B-roll of it while we're watching the video, but why is there the 72 and the 576? What's the main difference? And what's also the ETL? The ETL 256.
So yeah, it's a great question. So we are trying to expand the portfolio, give larger domain options to our customers. So with NVL72, that's the tried and true. They're on our third generation now. But we've had customers that want to expand the domain, do larger models. Some of the AI, model makers really are at the forefront and have large models that they want to work with. They need larger domains. So 576 allows them to do that, and that's why we have it on the roadmap. In terms of ETL 256, that's our reference architecture that is utilized for the Vera CPU rack and also the LPX rack.
Okay.
So those are the 32 trays, up to 8 components per tray, and that gives us the 256. So that design architecture is what we've been utilizing here. So that's what we mean when we say ETL 256.
And then one of the main difference that physically you can see between the Kyber and the Oberon is the dense amount that you can put in. What other types of core? What does that drive? Is there any connectivity difference between anything?
Yeah. So compared to NVL72, there's no cabling for the NVLink domain in the Kyber rack. So there's a mid-plane board that replaces the need for cables. So you have those compute blades on the front. You have that mid-plane, and then the NVLink switch is that giant tray.
Yeah.
And we have multiple of those that plug into the back. So they're mated together by that mid-plane, and that replaces the need for the copper cabling.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And there's probably so many questions I could ask. If maybe one more, is there something I didn't ask that maybe I should have asked from either both the Grok team, the Grok side of NVIDIA now, or for the data center side? Is there something that I'm missing that you should be like, Jose, I can't believe you did not ask this question?
I'm happy to start. I mean, I think, look, like, again, looking backwards in history from an architecture perspective, there has always been a trade-off between speed and throughput, intelligence or performance, right? You've never been able to get all three. And I think the most important thing for people to understand, token factories, individual developers, ISVs, others in the ecosystem, is that what we're doing between the Vera Rubin supercomputer and the integration of the rack scale LPX inference accelerator is to, you can see, I'm thinking of the chart that Jensen showed, right, is to push the boundaries on all of those dimensions. It's not just speed, it's not just throughput, it's not only intelligence. Agentic systems need all three of these ingredients, and that's what we're committed to do. We're going to keep designing up and down the stack. The team is moving so fast, it doesn't stop now, and I can't wait to share more this year on what we continue to do with the portfolio.
Thank you for that, Stuart.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, like the one thing we didn't talk about is the networking. Scale out products that we have. We have the Spectrum CPO rack that's shown over here behind us, and that's co-packaged optics, and the benefits there, 10 times better resiliency, 5 times better energy efficiency. So that's huge for our customers, especially when you're going to 1 gigawatt scale. That efficiency adds up to a very large number. Yeah. The other important thing is that we're not just doing rack designs. We're working with customers in the ecosystem for full AI factory designs. DSX was mentioned and talked about by Jensen. We're doing digital twins, thermals, electricals, the mechanicals, all coming together in the digital world to optimize the performance, the efficiency of these data centers, or AI factories, I should say, at gigawatt scale. And it's so important to have that efficiency because every watt counts towards tokens and revenue.
All right, so definitely, I think that's all I have. Joe, Stuart, appreciate the time. I know I say these videos are for my viewers, but sometimes I selfishly just want to learn more about NVIDIA, so I take the time to definitely pick your brain. So Joe, appreciate it.
Jose,
Stuart,
Jose.
thank you so much.
Great to